So if your mindset is, I want to go slow and understand this person, that's just you not understanding seduction. It has a different nature, so you need to get rid of that. Hey guys, Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com, here for part number 2 on my seduction versus relationship series. And in this part, I'm going to talk about the nature of relationships and how relationships have a unique nature as opposed to pickup. If you haven't seen part number 1, check out the description below and go watch part number 1 to understand the principles of pickup. And now we talk about relationships. And then I'll also talk about how to not misapply the principles to each and not get into trouble. So relationships are in contrast to pickup. Whereas pickup was about excitement and passion, relationships are going to be about security. Now, relationships are by nature much more complicated than pickup. Because here's the thing, yes, it is about security. That's the main principle. However, I've seen a lot of relationships are lacking in that passion and excitement, and I think that's why a lot of relationships decay, is because those people, I think everyone kind of intuitively understands that relationships are about security, but they completely focus on that, and then they lose the passion and the excitement. So with all of these principles, we're gonna actually be adding the pickup principles to the relationships. However, the slower variable is going to be more dominant and it's going to be more important overall. But of course, as with this variable, excitement and passion is still going to be important, but the security aspect is going to be more important. Now, so with a seduction, it's about intrigue and fun and passion and excitement. That is very easy to do when things are new and they're fresh. You don't know this person, it's a new chance for a new experience. That's a little more difficult once you're in a relationship. You can keep that excitement and that passion going in a lot of different ways. And maybe I should make a video about how to keep relationships hot and fiery, but that's not really what we're going to do here. But the security aspect, in contrast to that, needs to be your focus, because where I think a lot of guys get in trouble with pickup, especially the more like player kind of guys, is they go into relationships thinking that everything needs to be fun. Every moment needs to be exciting. And when things start to die down or cool down, they get jumpy and they feel that grass is greener on the other side. And they start thinking about being single, remembering those times when they were out hunting and having fun. And that can hurt your relationship because it can make the girlfriend feel like you're not there. Now, to a certain extent, yes, you need to always be willing to walk away. Your security shouldn't be unconditional. You're always going to be with her no matter what, right? No, that's horrible for more reasons than just this. I mean, you need to have self-respect and you need to have boundaries, right? But that's assumed, and that's a different subject altogether. But if you're not giving her the feeling that she is secure and that you're going to be there with her, and that, you know, when things get a little bit boring or they get slower and you guys start to, you know, it's multiple years now, or maybe you have kids and you start to have a family, you know, are you going to drone out and you're just going through the motions? Well, that's not going to make a healthy relationship. So what you need to understand about the security is security doesn't mean we're always going to be with each other no matter what. And, you know, that's just what we do as a relationship because that's our duty. No, the security is there so that she feels secure. She doesn't feel like you're going to run it, because the relationship is just about you two. It's not about some ideal of how a relationship should go or what society or the philosophy of it. It's an experiential thing. So she needs to feel secure in the relationship. And if you focus on her and you, which are the only two variables, I think sometimes we get clouded by our vagaries. If she feels secure in the relationship, and then also there's that passion and excitement, then it's that perfect balance where she feels your presence, she feels like you're there, but then there's also still that fun and that excitement. So create security by showing her that you are willing to spend a lot of time with her. You're willing to listen. You're willing to work through problems with her. You're not going to be impulsive. You're not going to let minor indulgences and minor desires take away from the relationship. And if they do at some point, then you're going to give her the courtesy of leaving because you're no longer able to give her that security, which causes her to feel safe and which causes her to feel content. Because if there's too much excitement and there's too much passion, which usually comes as a side effect or as a consequence of lack of security, it's almost to a certain extent where they're kind of opposite principles. Well, then she's always going to feel anxious and she's going to feel like things aren't stable. Unfortunately, personally, there was a period where I'd had a few relationships and then I went through a 5-year single spree and I was just going crazy. And then I got into a relationship and I still had some of my instincts. And because my mind was still so totally about going out and meeting girls and new experiences and excitement, when I felt like I was getting in a relationship, and I was, it wasn't just fucking imagination, the way I phrased that. Well, I felt like I was getting a relationship, and then she's sitting there with like, we've been together for a year, what the fuck, right? Okay, so it needs to be like 5 years in a marriage before I even consider we're really together, you know? Are we really together? Okay, so she could feel it. And it was in my behavior as well, where I felt sluggish and like I was kind of like turning into like suburban dad. It wasn't, but I felt I had that fear in my mind. I started to push away, and this caused her to feel anxious, and that ended up hurting her and not giving her security. And so you need to let her know with your actions and your words and your presence, because you can do the motions, but if you're not there, she's going to tell. So consciously be thinking, I want her to feel at ease. I want her to feel secure in this relationship, and then do the things necessary in order to give her that feeling. Secondly, slow decisions and slow consequences. The first thing that comes to mind with this variable, as opposed to the fast decisions of seduction, is when couples get into fights and arguments. I see a lot of behaviors that I think would work if you guys were first starting to date each other, where you need to establish boundaries, and you need to let people know what you believe in, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, how you feel about certain behaviors, and then condition the rest of the relationship. But I see that people who are together for a while, they're so fiery and they're so excitable, and then they start to really like spit venom at each other and say things that they really shouldn't, because they're not breathing and taking the time to consider, okay, there's going to be long-lasting decisions to everything that I say. With seduction, you might never see this girl again, okay? You should always be acting as a moral person, of course, with consequences in mind, but you're going to be more impulsive. So with a relationship though, like, you're going to maybe say things that you're going to regret later. And women, they're going to fucking remember the exact date and situation that you said something. And they're going to put it into a manila folder in their mind. And they might bring it up later. I mean, it could be 5 years later. And they're like, you remember when, it's like a special Pokemon card. And you're like, I didn't know you had that card, So you need to really be careful with what you say to her, because it's going to affect your relationship, how she views herself, how she views you, and then even like going down, like you're all children, right? So you're gonna know how the effects of your parents' relationships had affected you. So you need to be very careful with the words that you use and the attitudes that you have when you speak to your significant other, because the consequences of your actions might not be seen right now. You make up and everything's okay, but people remember. Things linger in their mind. They don't just go away. And it might come up years later, and possibly for positive or negative. So be very slow with your decisions. Don't be impulsive, And that was a problem with me when I went from that single phase to getting into a relationship. Was I was so impulsive that I would sometimes, one respect, be willing to leave the relationship so quickly, and would have that attitude, and she could feel it. And she told me one time, she's like, I feel like you're ready to run at the slightest moment. And it caused a lack of security, but also I wouldn't run, over one argument, but because she felt that, and I didn't have that principle in mind of taking my time to being slow, it caused long-lasting consequences on the relationship. Because again, I wasn't thinking about my words. You need to be very careful in how you express yourself. Lastly, intense focus. A relationship, intense investment. That's a better way to put it, right? The pickup investment that you need to put in is going to be very minimal, okay? But now she has earned your investment. She's earned your focus. This is your girlfriend. This is someone I hope that you've chosen very well. You are possibly going to marry this woman, and she's possibly going to be the mother of your children. So you need to be giving her, with those slow decisions and with that security, you're going to be giving her a lot of thought. And you're going to be very considerate of this person, and always thinking about them and how you can make the relationship better, how you can make them feel better, how you can improve their life. This is very healthy to have as an attitude in general, but of course, like I said, if you've been on 2 dates with a girl, she's not going to be the apple of your eye unless you just have some insane chemistry, right? So hyper focus. This is you're going to put I see relationships as, even if it goes to shit. And I think a lot of guys who, especially in the red pill, who have been hurt in relationships, they're now trying to shift into this hyper pickup mindset and apply it to relationships where, because they were betrayed or cheated on, they're like, all right, fine, the first time that something goes bad, I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna give her any investment, because I know that giving a lot of investment just gets me hurt and it gives me pain. And while that's true to a certain extent, I mean, that's the principle of attachment, is that the more attached you are to something, it's going to cause suffering at some point. But there is a way to be focused and invest in a relationship without letting it destroy you. And the way that I've gone about it, because I've been through very multiple breakups, is, and some of them fucking catastrophic, the attitude that I learned to develop was, I'm going to give my all to this relationship. Because this relationship is going to affect my future so much more than, that one girl that I slept with, or the girl that I was dating for a couple months. And I want to say that I did my best with this relationship, so that in my future relationship, if this doesn't work out, or if I choose for some reason, I want to go be a monk, and that's actually been a consideration sometimes of mine, I'm going to at least say that I gave it my all, and I tried, and I gave it the good old college try, and I put myself into it, and it didn't work out. And these are the lessons that I learned, and this is what I will do in the future and what I won't do in the future. So you want to give it a lot of focus, and you want to give it the investment that it deserves. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's just how relationships work, just as seductions. But relationships usually are going to die slower, and there's more time to fix things. So your investment emotionally and time, and even financially, if it gets to that level, it can be well rewarded if you are careful and skillful. And of course, if you picked a good partner. A lot of failures in relationships is just you picking a shitty person because you are misapplying principles. So a lot of guys, here's the problem, especially guys who are good at pickup, they get the kind of girls that make them excited, because of course it's not just about getting the girl, it's about the girl getting you. So they go after girls who make them feel so excited and so intrigued, but sometimes those girls come with a lot of baggage that you don't see. What made her excitable and what made her so passionate and interesting, and I say this as a very passionate person, is a lot of insecurities and a lot of vulnerabilities that caused me to be so emotionally erratic. And so when you transition that person to a relationship, they don't work out so well when it comes to making slow decisions and being responsible and having accountability and being empathetic and not just seeing it as a power struggle, but wanting the other person to feel better and to be better and to give that security to you. So when you take pickup principles and you or what you enjoyed in pickup and you're applying it to relationships, things don't work out so well. So yes, you should be dating someone that makes you feel passionate and excited, but some of those people who really make you feel that way aren't well suited for relationships because of who they are. And a lot of problems with guys who are in the pickup mindset too is because they're so used to the pickup life, it's hard to transition to the relationship life. And that's what I'm going to go into in my third video. But what I want to address before we get to that is, lastly, the guys who are too relationship minded, right? And they have trouble understanding seduction. They're great in relationships. I noticed this, like guys who are, let's just use terminologies, you know, just stick with me. Like they're a little more beta, they're a little bit, or I know some kind of guys who are like really alpha, but they're super about relationships. They only like occasionally will hook up with girls, but they're not like out hunting a lot, right? So they're very cool, they're very dominant, they got their shit together, but they prefer more stable relationships. I noticed with those guys is even though they have the things that might make her excited, they don't have that quick impulse decision making and instinct and lack of focus that will allow them to be better seducers, because they're too responsible and they're too slow and they think out things too much. Whereas the nature of seduction is more fast-paced and impulsive. So if you're a more relationship guy, you know, you could be the beta guy who goes slow and, you know, you're always, you know, you really got to get to know someone. Okay, look, man, like I promise you, and I've gone over this in different videos, getting into a relationship, having fast sex with a girl and having that quick connection, it builds a much better relationship. And I actually made a video that kind of went into this, and I'll put it in the description below and explain more why when you start off with that passion, it makes the relationship so much more happy and healthy. So if your mindset is, I want to go slow and understand this person, that's just you not understanding seduction. It has a different nature, so you need to get rid of that. But also the guys who, you know, are cool guys, they're attractive, but they don't have that impulsive, like instinctual decision making. What's going to happen is you're going to be going after girls and they're going to be attracted to you and into you and all this stuff, but you're not going to have that hunter instinct, that killer instinct to just like, go, I'm gonna get that ass, I wanna fuck her, like, And then after you do that, then you can get into the relationship, but you need to have the seduction be exciting and fun and intriguing and sexy. That's going to make the seduction seductive. It'll be fun if you do it your way, but you should be seeing it as a little bit that Romeo or that player or that lover, and you're going after her and you're gonna get her, and she's gonna enjoy it too. She's gonna enjoy that dance that you guys have. So transition away from the idea that a relationship, the principles and habits and emotions that you apply to your relationships are not going to apply as clearly to seduction. And for the lovers and the fuckboys and the players, you need to understand that once you get in a relationship, the principles will change and you need to approach them differently. And if you cross apply or misapply the principles to each, you're gonna get in some trouble, because the natures aren't working together and they're just gonna cross streams and boom. So that's pickup and that's relationships and that's their nature, and it's how they work together and how they don't work together. Now, in the third video, the next video, we're gonna go over how to transition from being a relationship guy to a pickup guy, or a pickup guy to a relationship guy. And ideally, I want you to be both. And I'll teach you how to do that in the next video. So stay tuned. Okay. Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell. See you soon. Ciao.